Hi, John Harbaugh here with the Harbaugh Coaching Academy. The importance of coaches in the lives of young athletes can never be underestimated, especially today. I hope you enjoy the valuable, practical insights in this interview with our expert coach. And be sure to subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. Matt, thanks for sitting down and doing this and sharing some of your experience with the people.
Yeah, my pleasure.
Yeah, it's awesome to see you again. How you been doing?
Good, really good.
Yeah. Well, we've had a chance to know each other a long time. You know, football, played against you, played with your brother, coached with your brother. He was playing.
That's right.
I was watching him play.
Well, you were the special teams coach for the Eagles when I was fortunate enough to get to the Pro Bowl.
Yep.
And it felt like you guys were coaching in the Pro Bowl every year just about.
Yeah.
Because it was the NFC champs.
That's right.
Right?
Yeah,
So,
we were missing out on the Super Bowl, so we got to go to the Pro Bowl 3 years in a row.
Okay, right. You're right. So
thanks for the memory. I appreciate that. Yeah.
sorry. So you got your ring. Don't worry about it.
Yeah. So those are the days of the Pro Bowl when you actually were coaching to win the game.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? There was a big bonus for winning the game. And guys actually tackled people. Those days are long gone.
Yeah, I understand why. It's okay.
No doubt. No, it's right. Things that kind of shows you how things change.
Mm-hmm.
And then we had a chance the last couple of years to kind of be walking the same path with our kids, with our daughters, down the lacrosse path. And your daughters are amazing athletes. I've seen them play. I've seen them in camps.
Yeah, yours too.
Well, thanks. I give your wife all the credit, obviously. She's a great athlete.
It's true. That's true.
But they've been fun. Some of the experiences that you've had that you can share with people, being a dad, from the dad perspective, it's been challenging and fun, I'm sure. But you've seen coaches, and this is kind of a coach's thing, and things that you like about coaches, things that you've seen with your daughters that really, that you said, man, that's really good stuff.
Well, I have a tremendous amount of respect for coaches. And so I say that because I think there's a very important role that parents play. And there's a role that parents don't play. Mm-hmm. And for me, as a parent, my number one rule is do not coach your kids. And it's hard for me in sports that I know about.
Right.
Now, my two daughters play college lacrosse. Your daughter's playing college lacrosse. And it helped me in lacrosse because I don't know anything about lacrosse.
Right.
So I'm just the dad on the sidelines, clapping, way to go, good hustle, clapping, cheering, after games hydrating my kids. But what I notice is there's a lot of times on the field where the coach is on one sideline saying, hey, set it up. Yeah. And then the parents on the other side saying, go to goal, or something like that. And it would be like naming your dog Stay. Come here, Stay. Come here, Stay. It's so confusing for the kid. Let them go play. Let their coach coach. Right. And so I witnessed that on the lacrosse field, and then I tried to kind of adopt that as just like sort of a thing we do as parents. And because I know what it's like to be a player when one coach is telling me one thing and another coach is telling me another. And so that's like one example, I think, as a dad.
What do you tell them as a dad? So it's like, you're not trying to coach them and you're letting the coaches coach, obviously. But, you've done it. You coached yourself. When they get back in the car and they had a great game or they had a tough game, there's something you saw, maybe that's not the X and O part of it as much, but what you kind of want to see and you can help them with, maybe.
Two things. Number one, real easy for my kids to get in the car and complain about the officials. Mm-hmm. Like, love to complain about the officiating. And me as a parent, I love to complain about the officiating. One of the lessons that I learned from playing football, and I had to learn it the hard way, do not blame officials, okay? It does you no good, it's unhealthy, it doesn't help.
Right.
If you can get that out of who you are as an athlete, I think it's really healthy, I think it's really helpful. So when my kids, they know you're not allowed to get in our car after a game and complain about officiating. And you might be right. But they're human too, and it's a hard job, and I don't want that job.
Right.
So that's one thing. The second thing is I try my best to bite my tongue on X's and O's and be a good listener to start out the conversation.
Right.
Something I struggle with a little bit.
Sure.
But that's something that, like I said, I think I've just learned the hard way, but I have learned the lesson.
I think it's important to point out, and here we are sitting here, and parents are watching. It's not easy. Like, we can sit here and say, hey, let the coaches coach and stay out of it, but you're fired up about the game too. And my rule with officiating was like, Allison, you don't need to complain about the officials on the way home because I'm going to do it. But you're to the game, so I have to plead guilty to a lot of things that you're not supposed to do. And even, the way the game went sometimes, or, man, she should have caught that pass, or whatever it might be. And so it's not like it's natural, it's normal. But you got to find a way to kind of bring it back to what's important, right? And what your kids need to learn from the whole thing.
I think I had to get creative with my kids. Like I have one child who's like super talented, but maybe not always the best at playing defense. And instead of me criticizing or like bringing up the defense, what I chose to do with her is I would video her on defense with no commentary. I'm like, oh, hey, I'm just sending you some videos. And I think she noticed in herself like, I could do better than that.
Right.
I could do better than that.
She understood what you were saying, but you were doing it in a real nice way.
It's a fine line because I had to send a bunch of good plays too.
Right.
It wasn't like I was just like, sending, oh, I caught you walking, caught you loafing.
Right.
It wasn't so much that, but I would send maybe 10 videos of the day.
Right.
I'd take 30,
Yeah.
delete 20 of them. And but I think getting creative, because you don't want to be that overbearing, crush their spirit dad,
Right.
but you also certainly want them to reach their God-given ability and their potential.
Right. So when there's challenges, maybe with whether it's playing time or opportunity or just the way they're relating with the coach or the other players sometimes, boys and girls, there's always relationship things on a team. What kind of advice do you give them in terms of, talking to the coach or handling some of those things?
So, number one, you need to have a good relationship with your coach. You need to communicate with your coach. This isn't like a mom and dad thing in your coach. This is you and your coach. But I don't really feel like I ever had to like do this too much because my kids played so many different sports while they were growing up that on some sports, they were the best player on the team. On other sports, they were the worst player on the team. And it had a way of, I think, making them understand what it's like, what the pressures are like to be the best player on the team, or what the pressures are like to feel like literally I'm the worst skater on the ice. Like things like that, or on the swim team or cross country team, or having respect for, hey, maybe I'm gifted in one thing, but I'm not gifted in what you're gifted in, having respect for every kid on the team.
Right.
Because I do think there's sometimes a little bit of a thing, especially at the youth level, with like people who get more minutes or score more points than other people. And I don't know, I just feel like being a multi-sport athlete helped us kind of mitigate that situation a little bit.
Yeah, that's interesting. How about the coach? Young coaches, coaching the 9-year-old girls softball team. What should the priorities be? What do they need to do to prepare themselves for that, to make it a good experience for the girls, to make them kind of want to come back and help them enjoy the sport?
Yeah, so I coached 5th grade football. It was the first time that I had the opportunity to coach anything really. And my wife coached middle school lacrosse, girls lacrosse. And we kind of did that back-to-back years. And I actually learned from my wife, like in like an age-appropriate thing. Like one of the things that she did really, really well is she made sure that these kids had fun and they were well fed, and snacks and food. And it just was like, and it was fun.
Right.
They absolutely had fun.
Right.
And, they went on and had a great year and, won like a championship and all that. And then, so when I'm coaching 5th grade and it's football, now it's something I really know about. It was a good reminder to me to continue to make it fun. And these kids have had a long day, and here we are at a 2-hour practice, and let's make sure we are fed. Like, so whether it was before practice or after practice, pizza was getting delivered one way or the other. And honestly, I think it's just like an age-appropriate thing that way.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense. My dad would always say, most important thing is that they want to come back and play next year when it's all said and done. And then you've done your job as a youth coach.
One of the tricks that I don't know if this is good or bad, I'll just say it anyway though, is the parents at the practice, the team I practiced, team I coach, when the parents would show up in like the last 15 minutes of practice. So I made sure no matter what the practice schedule plan was, the last 15 minutes of practice, the kids were having the most fun that they've ever had. So when like the moms and dads show up, they're like, hey, it looks like they're having a great time out there. They're casually in conversation. Like, how was practice? It was fun at the end. Kind of going out on a high note.
Okay, speaking of that, you're looking for coaches for your kids, or you're picking club teams for them or whatever. You go and you watch a practice to see if that's something you want them to be a part of. What are you looking for?
I saw coaches cursing out kids, and they were the best team. And I don't want to say the sport because I'll give it away. They were the best team. But no, Like, I'm not sending my kid to play for you.
Right.
Not happening.
Right.
Not what I'm looking for.
Right.
Even if you take them to the next level,
Right.
the level after that,
Right.
it's not what I'm looking for.
Right.
I think sports are great because they can open so many doors academically, and it teaches you so many life lessons. But it really is also a lesson on how you will one day be a coach.
Mm-hmm.
And like I even said to my kids, my girls played flag football all through middle school. They played all these sports, and like, why do we have to play so many sports? And I said, someday you're going to be in college, and you're going to have the opportunity to play like intramural basketball, intramural softball.
Right.
It'll be fun if you have some basics.
Right.
And then someday you're going to have kids, and then what if your kid wants to play Little League baseball and they need a coach?
Yeah.
You don't want to be like not feel confident enough to like just know some basics. I don't know. I think that there's so many great lessons that come from sports, and I think of the great coaches that I ever had.
Yeah.
Some were football coaches, some were Little League baseball coaches.
Right.
And I had some bad coaches, and I remember them too.
Mm-hmm.
But mostly I'm really appreciative from the great coaches that I had. And I just want my kids, whatever the sport, whatever the club team, to have coaches who coach the way that I would want my kids to be coached.
I learned so much from coaches. I'd watch some of Allison's coaches sometimes. They do some of those tricks, as you call it, the motivational stuff. The one time the guy did the tongue depressors and put their goals for the season on what they wanted to get out of the season. And then the girl wrote it down. It might have been Allison, and he picked it up and he snapped it in half and threw it on the ground. I was like, "Oh, this is uncomfortable." He said he gave her another one, said, "Do it again." Okay, then he took it. Then he had all the other girls do it. Then he put them all together. There was 20 of them, and wrapped them in a rubber band and tried to break them.
Yeah.
And said, "You know what? On our own, we can be broken. Our goals, but together we can accomplish anything." And he took those to every game, and I was like, "Wow, man,
That's cool.
That's pretty cool." I did it with our team one year.
Did you?
Yeah.
You stole it from him.
Oh, yeah, I still got the popsicle stick,
That's
man.
awesome.
I think we had a good season.
That's awesome.
So when you were coaching, you're calling the plays. Did you get any flack from the fans about your play calling?
I'm not even calling the plays. Okay.
Oh, that's smart.
So listen to this. I'm not even calling the plays, and I wear an Apple Watch, and I'm on the sidelines or whatever.
It's not legal in the NFL.
It's not anymore. No, but I'm not calling plays. I'm just on the sidelines. We're coaching, whatever, technique and stuff like that.
Right.
And all of a sudden, it's my daughter
Oh, no way.
complaining about the play calls.
Come on.
I'm like,
Come on. I
Take
love
the
it.
watch off, put it in my pocket. I was like, hey, listen, when I'm coaching, no, I'm sorry. But
That's the best.
she is so into it. She would make an amazing football coach, ironically. But
It's going in that direction, man.
It is.
We got a lot of young
I
ladies
think,
doing it.
I need to talk her into it.
Yeah.
Some of it's like, well, I've never played football. I've never really coached, just like a fan of football.
Yeah.
No,
There's a lot. Hey, Lou Holtz never played football.
Yeah.
He turned out to be a pretty good
See,
coach.
these are the things, Andy Reid was my quarterback coach.
Yeah.
He never played quarterback.
That's right.
He was a great quarterback coach.
Yep.
So no, I think there is that. And I think there's another thing with parents and playtime at the at the high school level where I'm coaching now. Setting boundaries and barriers for doing that appropriately. I think involving the kid as well. Like if you're going to have as a parent, if you're going to have a conversation with a coach, I think the kid needs to be involved.
Right.
The player needs to be involved in the conversation
That's really
as
good
well.
advice. Yeah. What about women's sports? I read a lot. Talk to my daughter Allison, and she talks about some of the things that's going on with the team and the players and the challenges, and it's challenging, man, especially at that higher level. In terms of the just the mental health part of it. And you read some things and you go, man, is everything okay? Hey, honey, how you doing? Have you looked into that much? And is there some things that you're thinking about with women's mental health and big time sports or even at high school level?
I think it's a huge deal. I don't know enough about it, but I know that it's important. There are so my daughter plays in college. My daughter's on the same team in college. They have a sports, I hope I'm saying this right, a sports psychologist on staff for their team now. That's not something that existed when I was growing up.
Right.
It was like, just tough it out.
Right.
Suck it up.
Right, suck it up is the word, yeah.
And I've also heard and I've talked to different people that see a sports performance or sports psychologist, that helps you not only when things are bad, but even just taking your game from good to great. Or it could just even be the way that you talk to yourself. Not even maybe how the coach is talking to you or how your teammates are talking to you, how you sort of positive talk with yourself. And, I think the first ever coach that I ever had that I remember really honing in on the mental health side of it was Pete Carroll. When he came up from USC to Seattle, the very first thing he did is he showed us a video that Kobe Bryant had done talking about someone that he had worked with that had helped him. Mm-hmm. And I think for the first time in my career as an athlete, I thought, oh shoot, maybe this is a really important thing and a really good thing. Mm-hmm. Because I think when I was growing up, I thought like, oh, this is a sign of weakness. Mm-hmm. But now I know I was just so wrong about that.
So you talk about Pete, who's one of the great coaches, man, one of the great leaders in his own unique kind of way. And I've talked to Pete at times, and it's like, what about your style? Why are you the way you are? And he goes, I don't know, it's just the way I am. That's how I do it. He's a gifted guy. Pete, Andy, some of the other coaches that you've had, if you can think of those guys and go through each one of those guys and what made them really good in your eyes? Yeah,
and it's not just those football coaches. I've been blessed with really awesome football coaches. Ironically, one of the things Pete did is he would bring in other coaches. Yeah. Like I remember him bringing in Steve Kerr one time. And Steve Kerr is it's funny in basketball, he talking about a team, Steve Kerr would talk about, the guys on the team need to understand the pressure that it is to be Steph Curry. Mm-hmm. And every night we go as you go, and all the pressure that it's like, it's easy to think like, oh, it's easy for you. Like think about it, what it's really like to be that franchise guy. Mm-hmm. And then Steph Curry and all the rest need to understand what it's like to be that last guy. Mm-hmm. Maybe I'm a backup point guard and a center goes down. Mm-hmm. Well, I'm going to get cut because we got to go sign a new center. Mm-hmm. So in football terms, understand what it's like to be that guy on the practice squad, or be that 53rd guy that if somebody else gets hurt, I'm getting cut. Nothing I did wrong. And that's when a team really understands how to love each other and have each other's back. But no, I've had so many head coaches, and I feel really fortunate. Tom Coughlin was my first coach in college. Yeah. Still slightly intimidated by him. Yeah. But there are lessons that I learned from coaches like Coach Coughlin that were great for football, and they're great for everything else. Yeah. Pete Carroll, going back to him, he had one of his 3 rules, but one of his rules is be early. And be early, it's like everyone says, oh, be early, be on time, be early. Well, Pete, the way he described it was, if you're early, it's just a sign of respect for what's about to happen in that room. Mm-hmm. And so quarterbacks, be early for a run game meeting. Mm-hmm. Receivers, be early for a run game meeting, and vice versa. Right. I don't know, I think those are some important lessons. That's excellent. I'm using that this year. That's really good. I love it. So football, man, you've had all these sports, but football's been big. And people over the years, football, safety, all the different kind of things, the value of it. We've seen, in our lives, it's been big. Mm-hmm. I've never really ever met a former high school football player that doesn't say, yeah, I played football, I'm a football player, and I regret it. They pretty much all are proud of it. It defines their identity in some way, and what is it about football that, kind of molds people a little bit, especially guys like us? I think for me, it's the ultimate team sport. I grew up a huge fan of football. I wanted to be an outside linebacker. I wanted to be Lawrence Taylor. Didn't happen. I wanted to be like my dad, who played tight end. Yeah. Your dad was a great player. Well, I appreciate it. Ironically. He was he's a little bit bigger than me, but the game of football gave me so much. But I think that I remember even just having to learn a playbook for the first time, and just feeling like, how am I going to do this? Well, it was all those classes I took in high school that were like chemistry, French, what am I ever going to use this for? Yeah. But you know what I learned? I learned reading and writing and analytical skills, problem solving. I learned how to study. I learned how to work hard. And so when I get to the Green Bay Packers and I get handed a playbook by Andy Reid, and he says, all right, these are all the plays you need to know tomorrow. Make sure you can say them. And I go back in my room. I use the same study skills that I learned in high school to say red, left, swap, tight, low, Z right, sprint right, G, U corner, halfback, flat. It's still there, man. It's still, but I use that. So in the same way, I feel like I use the lessons I learned in football to help me in other things that I'm doing in life. Right. So I think that's important. I think as a parent now too, though, because safety would be the number one concern, I think. Football has never been safer. It's never been safer. The equipment's safer, our rules are safer, our return to play protocols are better. And it wasn't so much like when my dad played, coaches thought it was a sign of weakness to give you a water break. Right. We now know that water breaks are a great thing for you. Right.
I'm ashamed to say when your dad played, when I played too.
Okay, there you go.
Not that long ago, man.
And then head injuries was a big thing.
Right.
And we used to coach a certain way. We used to say, put your right L on their right L, like head to head.
Right.
And we don't coach that way anymore.
Right.
In fact, the team that I coached, we made a real effort to not ever hit each other in practice.
Mm-hmm.
It was a youth level thing. We're like, you know what? These are basically 11 and 12-year-old kids. They'll know how to tackle.
Right.
You'll know how to push somebody.
Right.
And so like in an age-appropriate way, until we could coach the technique right, we felt like, hey, we can do this smarter. So I think that's where we are. I think this is the best time to play football, and it's continuing to get better as we go.
Right. So you're in the media now, and you're doing great, and you're enjoying it. What is it about that brings you joy? What are some of the challenges with that?
I think what I didn't think about when I got into it is just how much of a team it is. Mm-hmm. Everyone will see the people that are on camera, and those are like your quarterbacks, running backs, and wide receivers, mm-hmm. your fantasy football players. Mm-hmm. There's so many more people that are even more important to the success of everything that we do. Someone behind the camera, research, stats, producers, coordinating producer, talent producer. There's all these people, creative, camera people, audio, IFB check, all that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. And so just really understanding, and it is fun to be a part of a team. Mm-hmm. It really is. So I think that's probably the biggest thing. And then what I try to do is give people a ticket to something they could never buy a ticket to. Mm-hmm. So like this past year, Patrick Mahomes had a high ankle sprain. And everyone's like, oh, he's gonna get spatted up. And I'm like, my wife said, do people know what it means to get spatted up?
That's a good point.
And I'm like, yeah, of course. I started asking some people, I'm like, what's it mean to get spatted up? They're like, you mean like ankles? Like, I don't know. So like what we did is we had the New York Giants athletic trainer come on, tape up my ankle on live TV, and then I put the cleats on, the shoes, and then he taped it up again over the top, and it's like a spatted up thing. Yeah. And I had so many people say to me like, man, that's really cool. Like, I think I might want to be an athletic trainer someday. Yeah. Like, that's kind of neat. That's like fun. Like, that person had an actual impact on the success of that game that Patrick Mahomes played in the Chiefs. And it was like a really cool thing. Yeah. It was better than saying like, I don't know, my guess is that he's going to throw 5 touchdowns today. Yeah. Way better than that.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's good. You mentioned about team. You mentioned team a number of times, talking here. Being a team, being a part of a team, being a great teammate, What's your advice to any player to be a good teammate?
Unselfish. That's probably the biggest thing. Be authentic and be unselfish. Mm-hmm. And I think back to the great teammates that I've had, and I've had great teammates, and they're probably not the names that people will know. Mm-hmm. Some of them are, but just in the locker room, it's so hard to fool your teammates. Mm-hmm. Like, everyone knows if you're in it for yourself or you're in it for everybody else. Right. And it's just a really contagious thing when you're unselfish. Mm-hmm. I had a coach once, I think it was Chuck Pagano. He said, and I'm sure he stole this from somewhere, but I love Chuck, and he would say stuff like, if we all take this unselfish attitude, we're gonna have success, and there will be enough credit to go around. Right. And I think that's just a great mindset, and then when you have that mindset, you really don't care about the credit. Right. And it's hard in professional football because the stakes are high and contracts and that kind of stuff. But I would take the respect of my teammates over the contract with that kind of that unselfish thing.
It's interesting that you say that, because it's probably true at every level, and you just got me thinking. I mean, now that we're, your past playing days, and you look back on your life, the dollars that you made or the points that you scored, you really don't even remember any of that, right? You remember the times that you had, the relationships that you still have, those moments that were meaningful, those hugs. Those are the things that really count, being part of a team, really.
Yeah, and I think those same qualities are even more important in your family. Right. Who you are as a husband or a father or a brother, those kinds of things. And Tom Coughlin wrote an article in the New York Times this year about being the primary caregiver for his wife, who was fighting an illness and recently passed away. It's one of the best things I've ever written, one of the best things I've ever read. And one of the things he wrote in that, he said, for all my players who wondered why I made discipline, perseverance, and a passion for what you're working at such a priority, it wasn't just all about X's and O's. It was for times like this, when things get difficult, like you're able to have the perseverance to stick with it, and that discipline and that passion. And so it was just a powerful thing. Like, you know what? Football is so much bigger than just a sport.
Right.
I do remember the first time that I saw you on like the recruiting trail as a lacrosse dad.
Yeah, right.
And so, you know, that's new territory for us. Like, we've been around sports our whole lives
Right.
and stuff like that. But it was just really interesting because you've coached in big games, you've played in big games,
Right.
and then just watching you, how I feel like watching your kids play, all of a sudden you've got nerves for the
Right.
first time
Oh,
ever,
God, yeah.
or for the first time in a long time in sports. So it's good to be, I think, just like it's good to be a multi-sport athlete, it's good to have different roles in sports. Sometimes you're the big boss,
Yep.
and sometimes you're just the dad on the sidelines, just clapping and making sure your kids are hydrated after the game.
No doubt. You know, I got a text from Coach Belichick recently, and he said, he asked, how's your daughter doing in lacrosse? You know, because his daughter coaches lacrosse,
Right,
and she
yeah.
played. She's at Holy Cross. And I said, it's going good. It's up and down a little bit, you know. And he goes, going through my daughter's lacrosse career was the toughest thing I ever had to do, way tougher than anything I ever faced in the National Football League.
Yeah.
And I just texted back like, man, I'm glad somebody else feels
Yeah.
that way, because I do feel that way. I
I
feel
can
like
relate to that.
it's your family,
Yeah.
you know, and that's for parents. It's okay. It's
Yeah.
okay, you know, but you got to be intentional, right, about how you handle it, what you're trying to accomplish, and really be there for your kids. I love the fact, keep them all happy, keep them well fed, keep them well hydrated. You know what I mean?
It works at the younger ages. You know, I'm still working on some tricks at the collegiate level, but it is stressful. I think when I'm giving up control,
Yeah.
it's a little bit more stressful.
I found that for me, it's like that hug after the game, just that hug after the game, and being there,
Yeah.
really being there at the games is really a cool thing. And not that you're not involved, you certainly shouldn't be screaming at the officials, guilty occasionally, but not too often. But, you know, just the big hug after the game, you know, and just sharing it with them. I look back on all those trips now that we got in the car and we drove to New Jersey, we drove to Massachusetts, and they played, like you said, you go all the way out to Chicago and you play your rival team from Baltimore or from Boston,
Yeah.
you know. But just being there and looking back, said those were so much fun.
So last year, Clyde Christensen, who was my quarterback coach with the Indianapolis Colts, he's a legendary quarterback coach. I was talking to him about our summer schedule with my son, travel lacrosse, and football recruiting and all that kind of stuff. And he said, I love that you're doing it. And I said, do you think it's too much? And he says, you're going to look back on this years from now. And he's going to look back, my son's going to look back on this years from now. And the most memorable times are going to be the drive from Dallas, Texas to Norman, Oklahoma.
Yeah.
And then the drive from Norman, Oklahoma to Fayetteville, Arkansas.
Yeah.
And since he told me that, I feel like I really relished those moments and like tried to have really intentional conversation. And he was right. So we got another summer, one more summer of this. So I'm going to embrace that stuff too.
I wish him all the best and wish you guys all the best inside of all that, you know. It's a lot of joy in all this.
Yeah. Thanks, Coach.
Thanks, Matt.
Appreciate it.
Great job, man.
Good stuff.
Appreciate you.
Thank you.
Great. Visit HarbaughCoachingAcademy.org.